Is this a current trend of just throwing Lucasfilm under the bus? Is everybody jumping ship like it's the Titanic sinking? Hello everyone, I am Mecha Random 42, your favorite YouTube harpy. Now, we had reports last night of Benioff and Weiss from Game of Thrones leaving Star, now Wired is saying it's the smartest thing they ever did, the Game of Thrones controversy, Star Wars, etc., etc. That's been the big news. The other thing that just came out today, Kasdan says Disney blew it with Solo, a Star Wars story. Well, yes, we concur. Why do you believe they blew it? Because I think it was a perfect storm of combination of things that people didn't want in this movie. And by the time Kathleen Kennedy brought in Ron Howard to fix it, it was just too little too late. Lawrence Kasdan has had just about enough of Star Wars. The man co-wrote The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and The Force Awakens. Well, see, here's the thing. Your son was the one that they really mainly credited, and it really seems like Dad came in and helped his son write a script so he had some more writing credits on his resume. That's what it really felt like with Solo. So you had an inexperienced writer come in with somebody who was experienced. So you had a couple of weird visions there mixed in the whole mess. Then, of course, you had, what are their names? Now I can't even think of their names. From the Lego movies that were supposed to be the ones, well, they're going to say it here. Lord and Miller, that's them. Lord and Miller, they were supposed to direct this movie. It took them basically months and months. They filmed about 3 movies. Or they could have filmed 3 movies in the time that it took them to film what little bit they had done. And according to a source that I have who actually worked on Solo, a Star Wars story, everybody cheered when Lord and Miller were fired. It was that much of a mess. So there was a perfect storm, I believe, behind the scenes of Solo, a Star Wars story, making it flop, being a character that we didn't want a lot of backstory on anyway, especially if it was going to ruin our memory of this character, especially if you're going to have these dice be like such a mainstay of this character completely just disrespecting the memory and legacy of Princess Leia. And if you haven't seen Solo, a Star Wars story, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But they are so heavy-fisted with these dice in this movie. The dice, the character, the backstory, the fact he's a side character in his own movie, the fact that he goes through the same story arc as he does in Star Wars, right? All of these things. This is such an unnecessary movie. Not only that, the life debt between Chewbacca and Han Solo seemed so meaningless. Once we got this little explanation, the Kessel Run seemed like it was just there for, hey, remember the Kessel Run? Yeah, well, here's the story of it. Great, I didn't really want to know. It was cooler when it was a tall tale that he was telling. Because you didn't know. Because you could build it up in your mind. This is what they don't understand. It's like the old horror movie things, where if you don't see all the gore and the violence, you can build it up more in your mind, and it's better than what they're giving us. Seemingly reached a tipping point after his experience on Solo, a Star Wars story with Lucasfilm and Disney a few years ago. In a new interview at the Austin Film Festival, sci-fi writer, the much-loved screenwriter talked briefly about his history with a multi-billion-dollar franchise and said that he decided to give writing Solo a shot with his son Jonathan because working on The Force Awakens with Disney and J.J. Abrams was a very good experience. Unfortunately, when Solo was eventually released in 2018, following a tumultuous production that saw directors Phil Lord and Chris Miller fired and replaced with Ron Howard, the film underwhelmed at the box office. Han Solo had been Kasdan's favorite Star Wars character, and George Lucas had originally piqued his interest in the spin-off movie years ago. After finally getting a Solo script finished, though, the studio blew it, Kasdan said, adding, "But that's not unusual." Well, yeah, I think maybe people are now starting to see that Disney is a sinking ship. We gotta cut our losses. We gotta move on. I mean, I'm surprised that so many people are really, really bad-mouthing it, because you still want to work in Hollywood, and you're still gonna have, unless things are so completely bad that just pretty much everybody in Lucasfilm is just gonna be out on their asses after Rise of Skywalker underperforms, which it will probably underperform. It'll make a lot of money, don't get me wrong. It's not gonna make the kind of money it should be making. It is not going to be making the kind of money that the last Star Wars movie deserves to be making. I don't care about it that much. I did not buy tickets. And I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I grew up with this franchise, and it's disgusting the way it has been treated. It is really, really disgusting. When Solo became a commercial disappointment, Kasdan wanted to step away from Star Wars completely and focus on directing. But he says Lucasfilm continued to try to woo him back, even sending over a messenger to his house with a new Star Wars script for him to read through. I never saw this poor messenger they sent, I said. I can't take it. I don't want to sit down and read someone else's Star Wars movie. I'm just not interested in Star Wars. They're pissing off people who have worked on Star Wars for decades, that are so synonymous with Star Wars. Empire Strikes Back is probably the most cherished Star Wars film of all time. The most well-respected, the most beloved. Outside of the original 1977 Star Wars, I think Empire Strikes Back is kind of the gold standard. And to have somebody who not only wrote Empire Strikes Back, but is attached to this is their lives. This is part of who they are. This is their family legacy. To say, I'm not interested in Star Wars. That just speaks volumes to me. Kasdan recalled, before stating, don't think for a second I don't know how lucky I am that they're sending a Star Wars script to my door. And I can say, no, I won't accept it. You have to be in a very privileged situation to do that, and I don't want to ever take that for granted. I don't think anybody is upset with him for saying no to it. I think we completely understand, because so many of us feel betrayed by the way we've been treated, by being called, oh, you're just an ist, you're a misogynist, you're a racist, you're a sexist. Because we said some of these characters are not written very well and don't really serve a purpose. That is not what those words mean. And the fact that we've been bullied, harassed, if you're doing YouTube, you will have puppet accounts, sock puppet accounts, marketing accounts, fans, the stalker fans, the stans of Disney Star Wars. And same thing goes for Marvel, same thing goes for Star Trek. If you are a YouTube person that has any criticism of these, you are going to get bullied, harassed, threatened, stalked, etc., etc. You will get bombarded in your emails and your inboxes. If you have your DMs open for Twitter or Instagram, you will get flooded with hundreds of people constantly bombarding you with telling you with threats, death threats, telling you you're an ist, asking you why you hate people of color. Like, what does this have to do with anything? I can't imagine how heartbreaking it is to create Star Wars and see it turn into this toxic wasteland, this cesspool that it's become. Kasdan continues to pursue his directing passion and recently co-directed Doko last week at Ed's with his wife Meg. Shout out Meg. He had previously helmed big screen Stephen King adaptation, The Dreamcatcher, Wyatt Earp, and the classic, well, who cares? Nobody cares. Body Heat. He did Body Heat. The fact that you've got people who like Benioff and Weiss here. You have people like Benioff and Weiss who left Star Wars. They gave up a trilogy of that could have been $1 billion per movie. Do you imagine how much money and prestige that a Star Wars trilogy would have been? People would not have turned this down. You have people, I believe Colin Trevorrow also turned down a Star Wars movie. People are turning down Star Wars. It is that tainted. And when the people who killed Game of Thrones, they gave it the most controversial and divided fan reaction. There was a petition with more than 1 million signatures on it to get the last season of Game of Thrones reshot. And I think it needs to go a little further than that. It needs to start when they took over and when the source material ran out. That is when I dipped out of Game of Thrones, because I knew where it was going. Because I've seen this before. I'm like, oh, they don't know what the crap they're doing. It was boring. It was bad. And I stopped watching it. I did not suffer the heartbreak that so many millions of people did, because I chose not to see it, because I could see the writing on the wall. I've been through this rodeo a few times. I cannot blame anybody who sat there and watched Game of Thrones wanting it to be amazing. And I feel so bad for everybody whose hearts and devotion and everything was just ripped out in front of them because of what they did. But when these people say no to Star Wars, that speaks volumes. When you have people who write in Hollywood throwing Star Wars and Lucasfilm under the bus, that really, really, really speaks volumes. Tell me what you guys think in the comment section below. I am MechaRandom42. Do you think Star Wars can be saved, or is this the Titanic at this point? Are we jumping ship before it goes under? I will like, subscribe, share, and I will see you guys on the next video, live stream, or wherever. Bye! Thanks for watching. If you liked it, make sure to hit that like button, and if you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video. Bye!